Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? This is our Saturday live stream where we go over your questions of the week. Before we get started, I apologize for being a minute late. I thought it best that I go get my second cup of coffee just to make sure I'm ready for you. As we dive in, if you are new to the One Rental at a Time channel, welcome. I do most of my videos live, so there's no editing. If I pause, if I drop my phone like yesterday, hey, it's on video. It's okay. But I really look forward to Saturdays because I basically give back. I obviously do the daily financial news about 7:30. I spend a bunch of time from 8 to 9 just answering questions. And then I go ahead and spend some time with my students in our private Facebook group. So I look forward to Saturdays every week. It's 2 hours, kind of tight, where I just give back. Again, if you're new to the channel, who am I? Michael Zuber, author of One Rental at a Time. And I guess it's important to understand who I am from an investing standpoint so you understand my answers. I am predominantly a buy and hold investor. I was a full-time employee who over 15 years, through sacrifice, consistent effort, conservative, through up and down markets, built a passive income stream from rental properties that allowed us to retire early. Financial independence, retire early. We are living that dream. I exited the workforce at 45, and now I see that as kind of buying 20 years to give back. So that's who I am. When you ask questions, I'm not a wholesaler. Don't do it. I don't consider myself a flipper. I'm a buy and hold landlord. So when you go through and you listen to this or the entire playlist, which is over 6 hours now of just questions and answers, that's who I am. So use that as your lens when you're evaluating mine. So again, no particular order, just going to go down the list and go forward. So top to bottom, why walk away from a deal over 5K? The real estate market is hot right now. So a couple of things. So first off, thank you for watching my videos during the week. I don't remember which one it was, but I talked about knowing my market, learning my numbers. And yes, I walk away from deals all the time if they don't meet my numbers. And I have walked away from deals over $5,000 many, many times. There's a couple reasons for that. Predominantly, I know my market and I know what a good or great deal is. And I only want to do good or great deals. And the facts are, the more you pay, the more down you likely have, and the higher the mortgage payment. So in my opinion, at some point, a good or even great deal becomes an average or bad deal. I will not do an average deal. I have been doing this long enough to know that there always will be another deal. I also know that this market is like nothing I have seen in 20 years with 1 month inventory. I mean, I still can't fathom that. At the peak of the '05 nonsense, it was below 3 months supply, and now we're at 1. So the market is beyond bonkers, but I won't do a deal that counts on appreciation to make my numbers work. It's just not for me. Maybe I'm too scarred from the folks who lost millions of dollars in the last crash. Maybe I will prove to be an idiot because maybe my market doubles in 10 years and I could have used appreciation or cash out refis, but I won't do it. I'm just too conservative. I will not buy an alligator, and I won't buy an average deal. I want my money working harder than that. That's what I think. Number two, prices and rents are going up. What do I do? When is too much? So this question came from someone who has bought 1 or 2 rental houses. It sounded like it was in Southern California based on the numbers he gave me, or she gave me. Actually, I don't know if it was a he or a she. They gave me. How about that? I think prices are going up faster than rents today. I think in the environment we are today, prices are going up because of bidding wars. But I do think if you're in a tertiary market, that rents will start to rise because as I shared yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I'm starting to feel good about multifamily post crisis, post health event, because I think the tertiary markets is they don't have the supply that I think is being warranted. When I see articles about 40% of city dwellers looking to get out, I go, where the heck are they going to go? These cities have millions and millions of people. And if 10 and 15, 20% decide to leave, the suburbs don't have the residential units. So if you own multifamily, you are going to have an unfair advantage with rents as new units get constructed. It takes a while to build units. So I don't feel good about rents in the big cities. Like I wouldn't want to be a landlord in New York today. That would be beyond painful. I wouldn't want to be a San Francisco landlord for this next several years. Painful. But I am very happy to be a Fresno landlord, even though it's in California, because I believe while it's in California, I believe a lot of people are going to move to Fresno and I'm going to see a disproportionate rise in value and rents. So I think you have to know your numbers. I think you have to always know your numbers, learn your market, don't do bad deals. I really do think this next 6 months is, and I've said many times, is a very risky time to be a new investor. If I was just starting out today, I don't know if I could pull the trigger today. And I don't even know if I'd get anything because the market's so over or so active. This would probably be one of those times where I would pause. I talked about pausing twice in the book One Rental at a Time. This kind of feels like the time when the hedge funds came in. Remember that in the book? 2010's going great, buying things all the time, most active year, and then all of a sudden nothing. That's because the hedge funds started buying portfolios sight unseen before they came to guys like me. I think I would pause today. I would still learn. I'd still watch. I'd still be stacking cash. I'd still be conservative. I'd still do a deal if it came across my plate. But this is, I don't think this is normal. It just doesn't feel normal. I mean, the numbers, the stats are just crazy. So I don't know if I have a great answer for that, but I would pay attention. I certainly would be paying attention. Can you learn multifamily and single family at the same time? I couldn't. Fresno's a pretty big market. You know, at the time it had 500,000, maybe 600,000 folks. I couldn't. But, you know, when I say that, I have to appreciate some of you might be in smaller markets. So maybe you can, but I couldn't. My daily searches were routinely over 40 houses. I didn't have enough time to look at other things. Also, you have to realize that multifamily versus single family landlording is very different. The expense structure is different, turns are different, average occupancy is different. I certainly don't recommend trying to learn single family and multifamily at the same time in the beginning because they're very different. The numbers are different. I think you'll confuse yourself. But I am appreciative that some of you might be in small markets and you go, hey, I've got 8 houses to look at. What else should I do? Well, you know, you probably should go bigger, right? Because I want you to be looking at 20 to 40 at least in the beginning. But I guess to answer the question as best I can is I could not learn single family homes and multifamily at the same time. They're too different. They're too different. Both in ownership, in expenses, potentially in lending if you go big enough. So that's what I think about that. I got a question from somebody looking to be a private money investor. He says, how do I find a flipper that I can trust? This individual has an IRA and they want to do some lending out of the IRA and recycle that capital, I don't know, a couple times a year. So what I would tell you to do is once real estate meetups start meeting in person, you've got to network, you got to watch folks. I would be looking for flippers who have done probably certainly more than 5, maybe up to 10 projects. I would like to evaluate their business. What else do they do? I'd only want to take a first position. I'd want to make sure it's a very secure position. I don't really like the idea of investing 100% of purchase price and 100% of repair because the flipper has no skin in the game. Lots of people were doing that pre-health event. I would never do that, so I don't recommend it. I would try to find a flipper who lives in the area you are, so you could go visit them if something happened. It would be very different if they were in another state or something. Like, how do you go knock on their door and go, "Where's my money?" I would vet that flipper and try to figure out who in your network knows them. Because again, if they've been doing it long enough, you probably have friends of friends that know them. So that's what I would do if that's where you wanted to go. As somebody who has an IRA, you wanted to be a source of capital. Same individual. Is it time to change? Should I be looking outside of California? This particular investor has followed my talk of Fresno and is invested in Fresno. I believe they own one rental unit there. That's really a question for the individual. I think, as I've shared, I'm an open book. I think California is in for a decade of pain. California in general. I think the big cities in California are in for a whopper of pain. But I still see upside in Fresno. I see upside in Fresno. I am certain my opinion is biased and should be taken with huge grains of salt. I've interviewed Anna Kelly, who's talking about other states that she's investing in, like Texas or South Carolina or Georgia. I think about that all the time. And I have no interest in getting on a plane to go see my stuff. I realize that I am a control freak. I realize I am, someone. I am perhaps not normal. Maybe it's easy to be comfortable with out-of-state investing. I am not. I want to go see my properties. I want to go see my stuff. That's just who I am. You got to know who you are as an investor. If you're comfortable out of state, yeah, there's 49 other states to look at, and probably 45 of them are better than California from a regulation and all of that stuff. But I still think there's money to be made in California. I think Fresno is really hard today. I think this investor is feeling stress. I can't repeat it enough. 1 month supply of single family homes is not normal. It won't always be this way. If it is, Fresno is going to double in price. It's just interesting. Just real quick, for all the people that are giving kudos to this wonderful book we wrote, have you left your Amazon or Audible review yet? I need some help. As a self-published guy, I need your reviews to get better searches for others. So help me out, please. Sorry, I digress from the questions. My mistake. Oh, again, you guys watch my videos and ask questions. Thank you so much. So I think it was Wednesday, might have been Tuesday. I said, hey, I'm going to start looking. I'm going to ask Olivia, hey, if I told you 500 grand, Olivia, where would you go? Where would we go? And you asked, what did she say? She laughed at me. She goes, we're not going anywhere. Stop asking. So for everybody who asks, why are you staying? Why don't you leave? There's lots of different flavors of that question. My answer is I'm not going anywhere without Olivia. Happy wife, happy life. And Yeah, she loves it. She loves it here. She loves the food, the people, the weather, and we have built the life of purpose, and we are enjoying that we are have the ability and the financial means just to hang out. So that's why. Um, what else? Where am I? I got so many questions. I should have wrote bigger. Oh, the question again from somebody who watched the video is why will rent go up? People don't have the means to pay. So what I would tell you is a lot of headlines out there about renters today not paying rent strikes. I think that is very kind of big city oriented. I do believe it's only supply and demand, and that is what is going to happen. I believe rents are going to go up. I believe, at least in the tertiary markets where I am invested, rents are going to go up. Supply and prices and values are going to go up. So I think it's going to happen. And again, remember the headlines are usually negative because negative sells, right? Blood sells, if you will. And even if we have, I think we had 10.2% unemployed yesterday or Thursday. No, yesterday, Friday. I think we have 16.8 when you sort of do underemployment. Even if you round that to 20%, that's still 80% of the employed working. And if you were taking 12% or 20% of the big cities and moving them to the suburbs, that's plenty of demand to make rents go up. I think I shared this earlier on the daily financial news that we did at 7:30. But my friend who owns the property management firm has 6,000 units, over 6,000, and he has 12 vacancies today. Never had that. 12. Usually it's closer to 200. So if vacancies are that low and the demand keeps going up and up and up, rents will go up. Now they won't go up in this crisis because it's just not the time to do that, but they'll go up next year. You believe me. It's supply and demand economics 101. Rents will go up in cities where demand go up, and rents will fall, and they'll fall hard in big cities, in my opinion. Another question, a lot of videos this week about what I see going on evolving in the consumer behavior. I got a response from someone who thinks I'm wrong, which always happens. I've been wrong lots of times. This particular individual thinks the work from home craze will reverse as fast as it started. Right? We are seeing, and I've talked about the rush out of urban centers to the suburbs. This individual is like, 6 months from now, everybody's going to stop working from home. They're going to come back to the big cities, and it'll be like it never happened. That is certainly possible, certainly, without question. And if this crisis was like every other crisis I've been through and invested in, you would be 100% correct. I just happen to think this is the once in a lifetime event in my investing lifetime that consumer behavior is changing. I believe this is going to be long enough and deep enough to leave scars and memories for decades. I think space is good, is going to be remembered. I think conspicuous consumption is going to stop at least at some level. I think the need for an emergency fund or savings will increase. I think this crisis will be deep and long enough to be remembered for decades. I mean, if a vaccine came out tomorrow, maybe not, but I don't see that happening. And again, it's back to the stimulus talk. If that doesn't happen, it's going to be deeper and longer, which means people will remember. So I don't agree, but I'm always happy to be. I mean, I'm wrong all the time. In fact, I change my opinion. I just changed my opinion yesterday on multifamily and tertiary market. So I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, but yeah, I think this crisis is going to be one we all remember for decades. And I think it's going to impact generations differently, right? If you were in your 20s today versus someone like me closer to 50, right? It's gonna impact you differently. So that's what I think. Question about how I was taught about money. First, frankly, I wasn't taught about money. Yeah, I wasn't taught about money. The only thing I was kind of taught about money is money was used to buy stuff. That was kind of the extent. And I guess I was taught you exchange hours for money. So that's kind of what I see happening. At least that's how I was raised, right? You work hard, you get a paycheck. Hours, dollars. And when you have dollars, you buy stuff. That's kind of my story with money. I didn't really learn about investing until I was in my 30s through trial and error in becoming disciplined and reading every day. And that's sad because I have an MBA. I got my MBA at 25, 24, 25. So, I got a lot of schooling, and to think I didn't really know about investing. And again, I have an education in economics and accounting. Go figure. Yeah, investing was not, I don't know, I guess it was something I didn't seek. So it's interesting. So, yeah, so you can learn, old dog can learn new tricks. I learned about investing, started learning about it at 30, and 20 years later, I'm still learning. I learn every day. My opinion changes every day. I put out a video yesterday about David Portnoy, who a month ago I was going, guy's an idiot, what is he doing? And now I'm like, you know what? He's right. Nobody's invested through a pandemic before. So who knows? The old rules don't apply. So I'm always willing to be flexible. Does no stimulus crush everyone? Yeah. Yeah. We've built a bridge halfway. If they don't come through with the stimulus, it it will certainly be a double dip recession because consumer consumption will fall. The people that were benefiting the most are the people that are most likely to consume, and we are in a consumer-based economy. My opinion of the $1,200 one-time checks is a lot of that goes to the people that will just save it. When I asked, what was that 6 months ago, 5 months ago, how many of you saved your 1,200? Most of the people that were on this channel said they saved it. That doesn't help our economy. Paying down credit card debt. Credit card debt has been paid down, I read that a few days ago, like billions of dollars. We are saving and not spending. So the check, the one-time check, the 1,200, the 24, the 34, whatever it was for you, that doesn't help our economy. The $600 unemployment helps the economy. Keeps some restaurant employees working. It keeps retail. The landlords get paid. I don't appreciate, I understand the argument that you get paid to stay home, but isn't that what we kind of want today, at least in some parts? So if we don't have this, it's the unemployment benefit. If that doesn't get extended at some level, we will have a double dip recession, and it will likely be worse than what we felt in March and April. Yeah, it could be bad. It could be bad. Oh, why did your opinion shift on multifamily? Again, it was yesterday or Thursday. I don't know which way. I don't remember what day it was anymore. But I was like, you know what? I've been pretty negative on multifamily. I've sold a bunch in 2019 and was proud of it. But as I said yesterday, again, David Portnoy, just kind of his drumbeat of nobody's done this before, made me think about it. And I think, at least in my market that I considered tertiary to a very expensive, unaffordable market, we are going to have an influx of people. And I think a lot of them were renters in the Bay Area, become owners in Fresno, which raises value. But I think there will be people that had service jobs here in the Bay Area where I live that will have service jobs in Fresno that will be renters. And I don't think there's enough multifamily properties. The construction in Fresno on apartments has not been great. There's not a huge number. So I think owners of quality, call it B stuff, will benefit. I think rents will go up. They won't go up this year, but I think they'll go up next year. So yeah, I think multifamily. So that's why my opinion on the facts and the trends changed, and that's one of the reasons I look at my market every day, and I let the little pieces of information come together, and when it flips, I change my mind. And if you would have asked me on last Friday what I thought about multifamily, I would have been negative. You asked me this Friday, I'm like, I could see good things. So I apologize if that's confusion or you think I'm flip flopping or if it causes you frustration. I'm just sharing as I go along. And that's kind of the thing you do is you share and sometimes your opinion changes. Ah, how much time does your course save? So somebody asked, what will the course save time, or how would the course have saved you? I I think the course would have saved me a couple of years in time, but I actually think the course would have saved me a couple of mistakes. I think I did a couple of average deals in the beginning because I just wanted to do a deal, and I would have avoided some less than I would have avoided doing some deals and had capital to do others, which would have been better. So I think the course does speed up for most folks because it creates focus. As you know on this channel, focus is not a problem for me, but I do think it is for lots of investors. I think the course mandates that. Step one, focus, focus, focus. I think step two is where it would have helped me. I didn't have that in the beginning. Is where I compare deals, and I understand what bad, average, good, and great were. That was something that was I didn't appreciate for the first 4 or 5 years. I just did deals to do deals. So that would have been a savings. So yeah, it would have saved. It's going to save time for most people, but for me, it would have probably been. It would have saved. It would have told me not to do a couple of my first deals. That's what I think. I do think the course is the best thing I've created. I think it's ridiculously cheap. And if you're interested in investing and you don't buy it, I think you're a fool. But that's just a very, very biased opinion. How do you put your property in the best shape for an appraisal? Well, historically, that's never been a problem for me. I had one really bad appraisal that stopped a deal 2 or 3 weeks ago. So, in fairness, I've never given this any thought because I run my numbers ahead of time. And I know I've done enough of these where I've been right every time. I think there was one appraisal I was $1,000 off, but close enough. But this one smoked me. It was like 30, what was it? One night, so 35,000 less, right? It came in at 190 and I was selling it for 225. So what I've learned on this property is if the configuration is odd for the area, I should probably create a packet of the numbers I looked at for the appraiser ahead of time. So to be clear, I'm investing in a beautiful area in Fresno. It's called the Tower District. All these cute little homes. I'm on a street where homes routinely go for 300 grand. And I had the house that I have is one of the smallest ones. Let's just try to give you some numbers. Most of the houses on the block are 1,500 square feet, 14 to 1,600. My house is 800 square feet for the primary, and then it has a full one bedroom, one bath in that back that's 450 square feet. So all told, it's 1,250 square feet, which makes it average for the area. But most of that street, actually all but two houses, it's just one main structure. So the appraiser that came out only evaluated the front structure, which it's smaller, and gave it the same square footage calculation that the other houses got, and thus, in my opinion, grossly undervalued the house. So what I've learned for this is if I had an odd configuration that is very different than the majority of the street, I need to do a little bit more due diligence and prepare the appraiser for it. So that I consider that a mistake on my behalf because I knew it was odd to begin with. I should have been less I was lazy. 100% my mistake. So I should have prepared. I should have prepared the appraiser with, hey, here's 5 like kind properties in a half-mile radius. This is why I think 225 is okay. But in the end, I learned from it. You learned from it. I'm actually going to probably keep that house because again, it rents for 1,500, which is awesome, and I think it'll be worth 250 to 275 early next year. So I may just keep it. So that's, yeah, make lemonade out of lemons. It's okay. Oh, somebody watched the interview yesterday with Ashley Full, and they said the Fresno market is topping. My answer to you is, how do you know? How do you know it's topping? Because there's 1 month supply? Really? That's your expert opinion? It's topping because of that? This is an unusual market. I've been doing this 20 years in one market. I can tell you it's not topping. I shared on Facebook, there was a report somebody I follow from the Norris Group. He did this back in 2018. I had to go find it. It was that long ago. But he did some calculations on Fresno, assuming average incomes, and that if average incomes, you could afford 30% for your mortgage payment. So he went through a lot of complex math, but he basically came to the end of the conclusion is if mortgage rates ever got to 3%, that prices in Fresno, assuming the incomes did not fall, could go as high as $439,000 without being unaffordable. So first off, the Norris Group is the guy I gave credit to in the book for helping me sell last time in 2005. So I trust him. Affordability index is what I follow. And I've always said if it gets below 18, I'll look to sell. So that's that entire math that he did. It's a very complex formula. But in essence, in 2018, when we had no sight of 3%, he said if rates ever got to 3%, unaffordable doesn't happen in Fresno until you're 430, 439 or something like that. And based on Benny Clay's conversation from Tuesday, median price is 339. So to the uninformed who look at one data set and declare it's topping, I would tell you it's got 100 grand left to run. I'm not saying it goes 100 grand, but it is 100 grand away from potentially topping. Now, to be clear, interest rates could go up, would impact that as well, right? If interest rates went from 2 point whatever to 4 point something, Fresno would be unaffordable today. But I don't think you or I think rates are going up anytime soon, right? So I always appreciate the people that look at one data set and make a declaration. It's both comical and sad. Anyways, same question, might have been the same individual on another video. Who is buying all these homes? Folks, even if we have 20% unemployment, 80% of the people are employed. Millennials who are now in their 30s are becoming first-time homeowners. They are taking advantage of 30-year money below 3%. They have been renters and now they want space. First-time homeowners are out in force. Assuming you have a job and income that's not threatened, this is perhaps the best time to buy. You're going to look like a genius with a 30-year mortgage rate under 3 in 4 or 5 years when inflation's at, whatever, 2, 3%. So yeah, I think there's plenty of demand. And again, if we go back to, hey, big cities are shrinking, suburbs are growing, there's even more demand. So I think it makes total sense that people are buying today. I think what we're seeing markets that usually are slow and sleepy suddenly become raging price bidding wars, and we're seeing former areas that were unaffordable collapse. This is a structural change that we need to wake up to and realize it's happening, and then ask ourselves, what does it mean for me? That's what I think. What is the highest renovation return on renovations for rental units? I'm going to answer that twofold. First off, you need to know your market and realize what increases rent. In my market, it's bedrooms first, bathrooms second, parking third. All the other stuff, granite, LVT, all that other things, they don't increase rent. New windows, they don't increase rent. They lower expenses, but that is, yeah, that's what it is. So for me, an extra bedroom is somewhere between $100 and $200, depending on the area. And am I going from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4? An extra bath is probably $50 to $75. And parking, right? If you go from street parking to carport, that's like 25 bucks. If you go from carport to garage, that's like 50 bucks. So for me, the highest return on investment is a bedroom. It's why I still look for 2 bedroom, 1 bath at 1,100 square feet, because it has to be a really funky layout to not find another bedroom. So for me, it's adding another bedroom is the best return. Now on the expense side, LVT, flooring saves huge. The biggest expense I have on legacy turns is carpet. LVT has been a godsend. It lasts several tenants. Then granite. Granite is cheap enough now where it's better than Formica. Formica, once it gets wet, it sometimes doesn't last more than one tenant. So granite has also been a pretty good return. But LVT is by far the greatest saver on expenses. And as a landlord, a turn is your often most expense. So always remember that. Oh, if Fresno goes from 1 million to 1.3 million people, what impact? Again, I did a video this week pontificating that the big cities will shrink and the suburbs will grow, and I threw out those numbers. So again, thank you for watching my videos. I think there's a couple of things that happen. First off, I think a lot of that population growth will be what I consider high end. Yes, LVT is luxury vinyl tile. Yeah, it's basically that fake wood flooring, LVT. Where was I? Oh, I think the population growth in my area of Fresno and likely many other markets, you're going to have some high end folks come in, high income folks. Those folks won't directly impact my rental units, but typically speaking, those are business owners and whatnot, so they will likely eventually bring jobs. And more jobs mean more income, so there will be a trickle down impact. But I think a lot of that population growth will be middle class. And I think that is going to raise the value of my portfolio and increase the rent in my rental unit. So I think that 30% growth in population in Fresno will be great for the stuff I own, and will make it, I have to watch my numbers to make sure I keep adding. Because again, I'm still looking to add 10 to 15 units a year to my portfolio. So it'll just become harder and I'll have to adjust my numbers. Again, I learn my market every day. I adjust my numbers all the time. 2021, I'm going to guess values are up and rents are up, and I'm going to have to look at the numbers again. So that's what I think. Thoughts on Class A investing with good schools? First off, if the numbers work, that's awesome. I sort of think of the Monopoly board, right? If you've ever seen Monopoly, I like to invest in the, I actually forget the colors now, but basically it's the two edges away from go. I think it's like orange and red, and then something in green. I don't remember what the other color is. I think if you're talking Class A, like the last side of the Monopoly board, which has Boardwalk, Park Place, Marvin Gardens, that kind of stuff, I don't invest there. I think that's more ownership. I think you get alligators really easily. I think it's hard to replace tenants. There are people that's all they do. It's just not for me. And again, as I said in the very beginning, my opinions are biased. They are certainly 20 years in the making, but they are very biased. Yeah. So I mean, I think investing. So let's turn that question into my area. In my area, there's a city called Clovis, California. For those of you in the Bay Area, it's the Cupertino of Fresno. It's the place with the best schools. I look there every now and again. I used to look there all the time, but in my 20 years, I've only ever bought one thing in Clovis, California. I bought a 10-unit building there one time, and it's because of the school districts. And I got higher rents, but also I ended up having higher turns because people who wanted to live there would move there. They would find something, and then they'd go buy something. So I actually ended up seeing more turns at that unit because people were financially able. They wanted to get in there, get that address so they can put their kids in school, and then they'd leave, and they'd be homeowners after that. So that's what I experienced in Clovis. I don't own anything today with a Clovis address. Can you do a cash out refi on investment houses? You can today. I did several a year ago, but you got to watch it. The lending market is changing. I would say doing a cash out refinance on an investment house today is much harder than before. Your loan to value ratio will fall. They may only let you go to 60%. Doing a BRRRR project today would be tough if you needed to get out 80%. I think that would be hard. But just like real estate, lending goes through cycles, and lending is clearly on a getting tighter and tighter and harder. So yeah. Another video I did with a Huntsville agent, Tim Knox, got a lovely response. It says, Huntsville sounds like a bubble. I guess I would say why? Because it's busy? Is that why? You got to really sit down, folks, and learn your market, right? What's going on in Huntsville? I mean, seems like, again, I've never researched it, but again, trying to remember Tim's conversation. Sounds like a lot of employers are coming. Sounds like average incomes are going to go up. Sounds like you can't build in the city center. I mean, sounds like it has some good stuff going for it. Again, that's not a recommendation. I'm just going, sounds like you should investigate instead of take one 20-minute conversation and call it a bubble. We all remember, or many of us remember, the '06 bubble, and we're always waiting to call the next bubble. Folks, we are experiencing something like David Poitney says, and I now believe, nobody's done this before. So the old rules, which I used to clarify multifamily, not a good investment in 19, may not apply. Again, it was right in 19, but you know what? We're in an event now that is forcing structural change in where people want to live. And when that happens, the old rules don't apply. So I don't know. That's what I think. I got another question. I'm going to guess this was from a young person. I want to buy a house in 5 or 10 years. How much money should I save? The smart ass in me wants to say as much as you can, but that's not helpful. I'm sorry, but that was the first thought that popped in my head. Sorry, it's been 45 minutes. I get punchy sometimes. But what I would tell you is you should probably save at least 6 to 9 months in an emergency fund. So I would put that on the side and not include that. I would tell you to shoot to save for 10% of the purchase price. Now, you may not use all 10%. You might get a first-time loan at 3.5% down. But if we're shooting for goals, shoot for a 9-month emergency fund, and then shoot to save up at least 10% of the purchase price. In your question, you didn't tell me where you were buying, so I have no idea. So I'm going to use percentage. So that's what I would tell you. 10% of purchase, and then a 9-month emergency supply. How do I know a house is overpriced? Well, the best way to know that is it sat on the market for a long time. I mean, that's the honest answer. Especially in today's market. If you see something listed on the market for 90 days today, it's overpriced. Or it is so unique that it is waiting for that one buyer. But in general, if a property is on the market for more than 60 or 90 days today, it's overpriced, in my opinion. Who should I follow for real estate advice? That's a good question. I think most of the YouTube folks that show up in my feed are not real estate investors, they're entertainers. They're YouTube personalities who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars selling ads. And frankly, the real estate deals that I see them do are, they're not even average, they're bad. At least when I do the math. So I like to look for people who are doing the business. I really like people who have been through the cycle. So I know of a couple. April Crosley is one. I think she's in Pennsylvania, I think. I've started to watch Flip Anything. He's been doing this a while. Ken McElroy, I think, is someone who's doing this a while. But most of those young YouTube entertainers, they're not investors. I've stopped watching. They're just not investors. Oh, and then the last one I have is, how do you handle tenants who fight other tenants? How do you handle tenants that fight other tenants? Well, first off, to be clear, I don't. I don't self-manage. I want to make that really clear. I don't say that a lot. I've had property managers since day one. I will never self-manage. It's not for me. I'm too far away. I value my time too much. Property management is the hardest job out there. But in general, what I've had to deal with this a few times we have a process for that. When tenants fight, which they do typically in apartments when they're right up against each other, and they're fighting a lot these days. It's one of the reasons I thought multifamily would be in trouble. And we document everything. We don't declare fault unless it's obvious, but we document everything, and we try not to pick winners and losers. But typically speaking, if it's just arguments, we give them a warning after one, a last warning after two. This is if it's non-confrontational, non-physical, just like annoyance. The third time, we give them both notices to vacate. We don't pick winners and losers. We ask them both to leave. If it is physical, we call the cops. Right. Again, we don't pick winners and losers. We expect everybody to do that. And if there's damage, we give them a 3-day notice to vacate. We don't play around. We don't. Yeah. Living in close proximity, staying at home, alcohol, drugs, whatever happens, it's not a time to play it safe. So document, and I'll take a vacancy and an eviction over a questionable action. You just have to. It's not worth the risk, in my opinion. So that's what I got. That's the full list. That's all the questions I have for the week. I'll decide next week sometime if I want to do these again. Again, I have a lot of fun doing them, but I also have to look at what else is going on. So thank you for doing this. If you've enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up. Also, if you want to get notified when we do our daily shows, hit subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Have fun, everybody. And if you're one of my students, I will talk to you in 9 minutes. Take care. Bye.